We have new episodes dropping every other week. You can find them early on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, or wherever you find your podcasts, or find the link below for our Megaphone landing page, and we will see you around the campfire. Hey, it's Paul.
Hey, it's Jess.
Welcome to Campfire Ashes. Now pull up a log. Let me tell you a story. Their bags were packed a week before the trip even started. They had their route planned and were ready to go. Tyler and Lewis made sure everything was packed into the Blazer, and they were off to pick up Melissa and Rachel. It was only a couple hours driving into the wilderness, but they managed to get to Asheville around midday, and now the real adventure began. They started hiking through the wood. Rachel led the way since she loved hiking, and they needed a guide because you didn't want to roll your ankle and completely screw up all the planning. It was only a few hours into the wood as they skirted around the edges of the town. Only a handful of people still lived there, but they weren't exactly happy to see outsiders traipsing through the town and looking for stuff. Their destination was the hilltop cemetery overlooking the lone church in town. They could see the entire town, or at least what was left of it from that vantage point. Lewis started unpacking the equipment that they had gotten from the internet. EMF readers, spirit boxes, everything they can get their hands on. Tonight would be a fun night for a ghost hunt. They put their sleeping bags down, intent on staying in the graveyard the entire night. Melissa suggested a quick nap since they wanted to stay out of the sight from anyone who might be walking around to see them in the graveyard. Tonight was going to be epic. A loud horn blared out of nowhere, waking everybody up. It sounded like it was all around them, and they scrambled to their feet and peeking over the fence. In what was likely the city square, there was a lone police car surrounded by trucks with spotlights mounted on them. A man in full tactical gear and gas masks were screaming directions to the trucks. It was like a redneck military scene. Trucks with fog lamps, flags, men standing on the backs of them with gas masks, shouting directions at each other. Another loud horn blared, sending everyone in the square into a panic. And through the chaotic chatter, the group could only make out one word being screamed over and over again. Intruder. They fanned out. Several of them went left and right, but the bulk of them started towards the church and the graveyard. The kids hunkered down as low as they could. They didn't have a lot of options. The graveyard was too out in the open for them to scramble for a better hiding spot. The bulky man out front made his way up the steps and waved the men into the church below, and they could see the lights flashing through the windows as they feverishly searched inside. "What do we do?" Melissa broke the silence. Lewis scanned the group as they all looked around. "We stay quiet, and then they leave, and hope to God they don't come up here." "Are they looking for us?" she said in a panicked tone and stood up to run. The spotlight whipped around into the movement, and the three dove for cover. But like a deer in a headlight, she initially froze. But instinct took over, and she started towards the gate. The light blinded her, but managed to follow her as she moved, and she made a break for cover of the shrubbery, and unfortunately the light was in her eyes. She didn't see the concrete slab steps leading towards the cemetery and tripped, and she fell head over heels down the hillside, the spotlight catching every sickening thud as she crashed into more of the concrete on the way down. A combination of a ringing and a horrific snap ran through the valley as her neck caught the railing of the landing near the top of the hill. Her lifeless body was sprawled onto the walkway. Tyler fought back a scream, seeing Melissa motionless, and in anger as the men caught up to her and dragged her body down the steps. They watched the commotion as they pointed around the area. They couldn't make out what anybody was saying, but the fervor of the party, she wasn't the one that they were looking for. And one gestured towards the hillside and the cemetery, but was quickly shot down by someone that seemed to be higher ranking, and they joined the rest of the group searching inside and around the church. Tyler tried to make a move, but Lewis caught his arm. He was watching Tyler the whole time, and he knew he wouldn't stay put long with Melissa dead among the strangers. He shook his head to dissuade any ideas that he had for revenge or to retrieve the body, and they had to watch the group for like an hour, eyes tightly trained on the town square and the church. Another stir-up caught everyone's attention as the man came out of the church with a man in tow. The trio watched as he seemed to plead with the leader, who confidently strode up to the steps to the entrance. He struck him down as soon as he was close enough and motioned for his men to secure him. He dragged down the steps into the back of one of the pickup trucks, and the urgency of the square kind of died down. They turned off their spotlights, satisfied that the man in the church was the one that they were looking for, and tossing Melissa's body into the same truck. And they heard the man screaming as he realized the woman was dead. Another hour passed, and everybody seemed ready to leave. All filed back into their vehicles and lined up to exit the square. Tyler had seen enough. They're taking her with them. Lewis had been paying too close attention to the square to notice and couldn't keep him from standing up. The loud cock of a gun came up from behind them, and he turned around to see 5 armed men coming out of the brush, and the man stepped around the gate pillars, clotheslining him and sending him to the ground. Rachel started to scream, and one man came up from behind her and hit her in the back of the head with the butt of a shotgun, and she went down fast. Before Tyler could make a move, another man came up from behind and pistol-whipped him, dropping him next to Rachel. He saw them drag Lewis over to them and drop them next to the girl. He tried to muster resistance, and the last thing he saw was a gun butt coming down to meet his face. So what happened? The coroner covered up the last of the 4. And it looks like carbon monoxide poisoning. They died in their sleep, and they were probably dreaming some horrific things. He pointed to the smoking vent near the tombstones. It had opened up in the middle of the night. It was dumping a bunch of smoke, and the fog kind of held the gas lower to where they were sleeping. That's probably what happened to the girl. She probably got dizzy and tried to run, but managed to only make it a couple of steps before she tripped and fell down the stairs and broke her neck. The officer looked down at the hill of the pickup truck. The spotlights on the roof. Is that the local coroner? He's here already? They both shrugged. He always had a knack of being close by, doesn't he?
Is this local?
This is local. This is very local to you.
Oh,
Welcome to Centralia.
Oh, yeah.
Centralia. Yeah, Centralia is an interesting place. So, basically what happened with Centralia. Centralia actually used to be a booming town. It was a fine town. There was nothing wrong. It's coal country. Like, you have a lot of these places that are just coal country, just like salt of the earth kind of people. But the problem is,
Pennsylvania.
yeah,
Everybody was a coal miner.
Yeah. So, like, in 1962, they wanted to get rid of their landfill. So somebody had the bright idea, let's burn it. Let's just burn our landfill because it's 1962. Like, people don't know that, like, that's not safe for anyone to...
Carbon emissions.
Carbon emissions, like toxic materials, like if you have like tires and things, like that's a lot of shit going into the atmosphere that's just not safe.
The ozone layer called stop.
Mm-hmm.
Just stop.
But what they did not know is that the dump was actually built on an old coal mine.
Wait, that's it's not a good spot to light fires.
No. So once the fire was set, it set fire to the coal veins within the coal mine. And as a result, this fire will be burning for the next 250 years.
Yeah.
Like, it
Love
is...
that.
Yeah, it is currently on fire.
Yep.
And now, so here's the thing. They did this in 1962. They didn't know about this. They didn't know what they had done until almost 1980.
Yeah.
They didn't realize that...
The consequences of your own actions.
Look, here comes the consequence. Yeah, TikTok. But yeah, so like they didn't realize until like a gas station owner was like checking the temperatures in his like gas his gas tank, his gas pumps, and realized that the temperature was 100 degrees above normal.
No, thank you.
So basically, his gas was like getting to that point where like it could self-ignite.
No, thank you.
Yeah. And then
I love that.
and then sinkholes started to develop and almost killed a 12-year-old child when a 150-foot sinkhole opened up underneath him.
Wow, casual.
Yeah.
Glad they lived.
Yeah, they did not die. And basically, that's when like the land kind of started to turn. Like there are patches of the land that just look like scorched. It just looks like dry, brittle, like dead earth kind of thing.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy.
Yeah. So over the years, people have just slowly been leaving. So obviously, you have your standouts that are just like, we're never leaving this place. But by 1990, there were only 63 residents, and by 2012, only 10 people live in this town.
I think now it's like
It's even less.
4. I think it's like 4 people. Like
Yeah.
it's barely anyone, and it's mostly just like people too old to move.
It's people that are too old to move, and people that believe in conspiracy
Legacy.
theories that
Yeah.
feel that this is a fake thing, that the government is trying to take their homes through eminent domain.
Yeah. It's there's a lot going on. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah. The only prominent structure that remains in Centralia is a very large church.
Yes.
The Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. It is the only thing realistically there, other than maybe like a handful of houses. And it's prominently like displayed. Like it looks well used. It's still well used, but that's about it. It's just creepy. It looks like a weird hellscape. Like it looks like when you go there, it looks like there should be stuff. Like you see the plots and everything like that. Everything looks like it should be there, but it's just not. It's just an emptiness.
It's like if you're building a town in The Sims, but you only built like a third of it, not even.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah, it's very weird, and it's dangerous also because there's carbon monoxide poisoning. There are just open vents of like toxic fumes coming through. The earth around it is cracked because not only from the heat, but also it's been burning coal. So like once that coal has been used, like there's a cavity there, and that's where the sinkholes come from. There's just a lot of weird stuff that happens with Centralia. However, there were two things. You had the church that was like the big thing, and then you also had Graffiti Highway, which is no longer there, by the way.
Yeah.
Graffiti Highway is gone.
It's a sad day.
It used to be basically it was one of the most prominent things that showed the wear and tear of Centralia, because like it's a highway that's literally cracking from the heat going on underneath it. So while cool, a combination of just being completely unsafe, and then also the graffiti on Graffiti Highway just becoming more and more vulgar and creepy and racist and just weird. They're just like, well, we're just going to dump a bunch of like a couple metric tons of dirt over it and just cover it. There are a lot of people that actually... Go ahead.
And acquaintances like my age or slightly older that contributed to the graffiti on that highway. Not the racist vulgar
Not the
thing.
racist stuff, but...
No. I wouldn't even say the vulgar things, more just like the, like tagging it, like, oh,
Mhm.
like, I was here, this, whatever. Yeah, I'm sure I could even find, pictures, like, people, like, if you Google Graffiti Highway in Centralia, I'm sure I could point out some pictures that, like, my friends took.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like, it was a big thing to do. There's not much to do. I live in the woods.
Mhm.
It was a big thing to do. Because it's not far from me. It's like less than 2 hours away.
I remember what, like, before COVID became a thing, I was actually, like, we were talking about making a trip to Centralia.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened, and then in the middle of COVID, they're just like, hey, let's just dump some.
They used it as an opportunity to dump the dirt on it.
Yeah.
Sad day. Yeah, I
So
remember people posting on Facebook about that. Going like, they dumped dirt on Graffiti Highway, like we can't have anything, like.
mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I mean, it's not really safe for you to be there.
Yeah, it's like you should not be going there. Like it's not the safest place in the world.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. This weird hellscape has actually inspired several things. One of them, obviously, people are just screaming at their whatever they're listening to us on. They're just like, Silent Hill, say Silent Hill. Technically, so Silent Hill, this Centralia did not inspire the Silent Hill video games. However, it was patterned on the movie.
And if you've ever been there, you can kind of see
Yes.
the references.
The one giant church in the middle of nowhere and the weird hellscape, like that church is patterned after the one in Centralia.
I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, if you've seen that movie, just imagine that, but, like, rather than it being, like, dark and foggy all the time, like, it's just, like, randomly sunny, but you still feel uneasy. That's it.
Well, see, no, that's the thing, though. Like, it is still dark and foggy in certain areas because of the smoke that's pouring out of the fires. So, like, there are still, like, those places where things just happen. And then if there is extra fog and everything like that, it can tamp down those things, and that's where things become dangerous because the air is not circulating and it's not pushing the carbon monoxide away. Like, it can be dangerous.
Which is why you shouldn't go there.
But it's been used as a model for different ghost towns, kind of like the manifestation of hell. So Dean Koontz has used it as a background in Strange Highways. David Wellington has done things like, there's a lot of things that have kind of do that. The screenwriters for Silent Hill actually used Centralia as a working model for what they were doing. Now, granted, what it looks like in the movie is not like, they didn't pattern it out after, they just patterned the concept of it as that. They didn't really like go down and start like mapping out. Yeah.
But it wasn't like shot there or anything.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of things have done there for PBS. PBS has covered it. Travel Channel, like it's been discussed quite a bit.
Yeah. It's a bit of a hot commodity for us, like somewhat locals.
Womp womp womp. Hot commodity.
See what I did there?
That's horrible. Also, it inspired one of my favorite really horrible bad movies called Nothing But Trouble. This movie should have been gold. Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, Demi Moore.
I don't even know this movie.
Yes, it is a bad movie. It is not great. Even has Digital Underground with a Tupac cameo in the movie. Yes. It is a
flop?
Huh?
This flopped?
Yes. It did not do well. It was a town called Valkenvania. Which basically the concept is they were leaving Philadelphia and then they got stopped for a traffic ticket, and it was run by a maniacal judge who would sentence people who did like little things to death, and would put them on a conveyor belt that would cut them to pieces and then feed them to his inbred children who hung around a dump. And this was a comedy, by the way. this is a comedy. I know what I'm saying sounds like a horrible horror movie, but this was a comedy.
Yikes. Dark comedy.
Yeah, it made $8 million in theater, which was a fifth of the budget. So it's a flop by like anything. But yeah, so Valkenvania, and then then what ends up happening is that like they end up lighting, like the fires become a problem and it consumes the town, and that's how Chevy Chase and Debbie Moore get away. But yeah, it's a bad movie. It's not terrible. It's just it's surprising how bad this movie did, because it shouldn't have. In the 80s, Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, like that's gold. That's money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just,
I don't know. There's something to be said about bad movies, because there are bad movies that are like really terrible,
mm-hmm.
and then there are bad movies that are like entertaining.
Yeah.
And they're not actually that bad. They're just like not regarded as highly as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
Centralia also, like, in a way, gives me like House of Wax vibes.
I can see that. Yeah. Yeah,
Just,
House
like,
of Wax. Yeah.
There's no one around, but like, it's not like a completely abandoned town, because like most buildings aren't there anymore. But
yeah, there's still like two or three.
There's enough left that it's eerie. It's definitely very strange.
Hmm. But yeah, I thought this was a fun one. Like, I remember the movie. I'm a fan of the movie, at least, of Silent Hill. I haven't played any of the video games, but I know they were pretty good.
Doing more, supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly.
Which I'm excited about.
I can imagine. But yeah, that is Centralia. I mean, and I wish there was more to it. Unfortunately, like it's the legend grew and then it started to evaporate, much like because like people still live there, so you really can't. It's not an abandoned ghost town. Like people still live there, so there's only so much you can do in Centralia without pissing somebody off. And then there is the dangers of being there, and everything. But like despite it all. There's quite a bit of lore there, and it's really kind of neat.
It's not even necessarily like haunted either, which is really neat.
Yeah, it's definitely not haunted, because like nobody really died there of like mysterious causes or died in the mines or anything like that. Like, or they didn't like open up a hole and like houses fell in, kind of thing. It just kind of like floated away on its own. So yeah, happy Halloween, guys. I hope you like starting next week. Obviously, we go back to our regular schedule, which is every other week. But I hope you liked this rapid fire weekly stuff.
If you like this, wait till you see what we're doing for Christmas.
Yeah, we have some Christmas stuff coming up. Christmas is going to be fun. We have some people that have actually hit us up about doing some guest spots, so you might hear some different voices on here. Yeah, it's not just us, but I'm excited. And remember, last one out douses the fire. If you heard something, no you didn't. If you're here with us next time, it means you made it through the morning.